I'm going to care. I'm going to care for a number of reasons, but not the least of which is Ross Bjork is getting one over on a lot of people. Like, I'm glad you brought up the Facebook Live aspect of this, because this is continuing a trend of Ross making himself and A&M out to be a very big deal in this COVID year. And the reason I am couching it there is because Nick Saban coached against Georgia because of a rule Ross Bjork was very proud to have enacted basically on behalf of his women's soccer team. So they had a women's soccer player who tested positive for the virus, who swore up and down that there's no way that she could have tested positive for this virus, especially after they had gone through their own protocols. But their in-house athletic training staff administered this test, and she was positive. So homegirl goes to the student health center on campus in College Station. She gets another test. She says this test is negative. So they bring it to Bjork, and Bjork brings that to the SEC. They vote on this with no fanfare, no nothing, and it gets passed that if you have 3 negative tests in 24 hours, that you are cleared to play and get through this competition that might have, in the case of, say, the Big Ten, had you missed 3 weeks altogether. At Alabama, they abused this rule. They get Nick Saban 3 tests in 2 days, right? And by 7 a.m. Saturday morning, he's coaching against Georgia. And now we have Ross Bjork crowing about never having to actually travel to Fayetteville. And I think that that's wildly overstepping the bounds here, right? Because, if anything, what we know about the South is one, people want you to act like you've been there, which I have, I have my own thoughts about it. But humility is also another part of this, right? And ampersand you not having any humility. Matter of fact, I did a preview segment on this show about this game, and I got a commenter in there that says, dude hates A&M but a nice jacket. And I said, no, dude hates crybabies, but, I like you too. I understand most people that didn't go to ampersand you can't stand ampersand you. But Arkansas folks, yourself included, have a very clear dislike for ampersand you. And I would like you to unpack that and tell me where that comes from.
RJ, I liked you already, but this interview, this show is making you like me, or me like you even more. When it comes to Texas A&M University, there was no one more arrogant, no one more boisterous, no one more cocky, no one that deserves to be talking like that when, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe this is correct, they have not won a national championship in football, basketball, or baseball since 1939. I believe I'm correct in saying that. These are people, these are fans, and all we did today was tell Aggie jokes on the program, and it was hysterical. I just don't understand where their confidence comes from. And it's confidence when you have something to be confident about. RJ, they have nothing to be confident about. Yes, you went 11-2 with Johnny Manziel your first year in the SEC. Whoop-de-doo. Did you go to the SEC championship? Nope. You've had good years since then, but it's typically 8 wins, RJ. That's kind of the barometer of this football team this past decade. And, yes, they have a ton of money. I'll give them that. Yes, they have really nice facilities. They just spent, I think, $460 million on Kyle Field back in 2016. So, yes, they do have that. But I just don't get where the arrogance comes from associated particularly with the football program. It doesn't make a lick of sense to me. I just don't understand. And my grandpa, God rest his soul, my late Daddy Joe, hated the University of Texas. And he passed that on to me. In our bathroom, there is a Texas Longhorns insignia with horns face down, as they should be. I know you're a fan of that. But my hatred has transitioned from the University of Texas to Texas A&M University, and it stemmed for a couple of reasons. One, I didn't have any friends that went there, so you can there's kind of some love lost, like, oh, I have a buddy that goes there. He's kind of the symbol that a person I kind of like. I don't have any friends that go to Texas A&M or went there, so there's nothing there. Two, we kept losing them when I was in school in the most excruciating way possible. 2013, when I'm a freshman, Johnny Manziel comes to town, and you know what? It's a pretty good game. I think it ended up 45-33, but Johnny Manziel and that team just ran all over us. Then you move on to 2014, losing OT. 2015, losing OT. Trevor Knight runs all over you in 2016, and then 2017, 2018, and 2019, it's also one-score ball games. I think it's also that. And just the fact that they think they're entitled to everything. As you just mentioned with Ross Bjork, the old Ole Miss athletic director, now Texas A&M athletic director, there's a sense of entitlement. You know what? Alabama can have that. I understand it. To a certain extent, Oklahoma can have that with the Big 12 championships and the kind of what they put together. I can understand that. You live and breathe it every day, so I understand that. Texas A&M has no business whatsoever with this type of egregious cockiness that has nothing to be backed up. I don't get it. I hate that school with a burning passion. I hate that school more than any other school. I hate that football team more than any other football team in the country. Over LSU, over Ole Miss, over Texas, over Alabama. And, man, I just hope RJ, get this. It has been 3,315 days since Arkansas has beaten the Texas A&M Aggies. And I hope that streak comes to a dramatic close on Saturday night.
That's a lot, brother. That's a lot. All right, so I got an answer for the cockiness though, and it is with all things that I love about sports. It has nothing to do with the sport itself, right? It is oil in a word. All right, and this is going back. I mean, you could take this to Manziel. You could take it even further back. But they were able to turn wildcatting into large sums of money, not unlike Jerry Jones, right? And what he did, basically drilling holes in the ground in Oklahoma and forging his fortune big enough to buy the Dallas Cowboys, and we know what happened after that. But you're talking about a group of folks that went to the same college that drilled holes in the ground and wanted nothing more than to have an outstanding football team. The same thing happened at Southern Methodist in the early 80s. They got tired of hearing Texas A&M's mouth, hearing Texas's mouth, because they were also benefiting from oil money. So when you're able to have all this cash on hand and all these reserves on hand, you believe that you can do what the LA Dodgers have, claimed to have done, right? They actually grow some of their players, but they can also go spend all this money on Mookie Betts. And they're in the World Series 3 out of the last 4 years. They get one last night. Kudos to them. But they also got all this money to go buy Mookie Betts with and to keep Justin Turner on the payroll and to keep Corey Seager on the payroll. A&M set out to do the same thing, okay? They tried to do it with Eric Dickerson. Eric Dickerson took the Trans Am, drove it all the way back up to Southern Methodist, right? That's what it is. They're going, we ought to be able to buy these players. We ought to be able to buy the best coaches. They spent $75 million in 10 years on Jimbo Fisher because they believe they should be able to buy these things. And nobody is happier because they got money. You're more secure. You feel like you could take care of some stuff, but you're not happier because nobody's happy about anything they didn't earn, right? If you didn't have to work for it, it doesn't mean anything at all to you. Ampersand you lives and breathes this.